Oh. All right, folks, welcome to another Monday night live Q&A. And as always, it is 4 p.m. on Monday, and we answer all of your questions about, well, anything that you have, any questions you have about drones. And I'm sure there will be some questions about the recent language or changes to the NDA, and we can talk about that maybe a little bit later. We're going to let people come in and kind of chillax and sit down and, start asking you questions. So put them down in the comment section. I just talked to Vic, and we have some updates, and we'll get to that in a minute. So let's say hi to our friends. We have Thorol Inspired, man, every single week. He's the first one in the chat. So welcome back again. Hi Can Fly, Lou, we have Tim Voice, we have Curtis Warren, names that I see all the time. Kenneth Noisewater, we have Richard Hooker, Sergio de la Carza, Alexander Bleckenship. I don't think I recognize that name. Maybe a new person. Welcome. And if you've been here before, I apologize. Scott, our own Jillian B from the community. We have Doug is here, Zach is here, Healthy Living, Retired Fire Chief, also here quite a bit, Bob Rock, Walt Saxon. We have Magic Dragon Drones. Man, I want to see that. We have Rick Horn, Flight Media, Josh. We have Old Deadeye, Greg, another Greg. We have Travis Cheney, an OK Boomer, seen that name before. Drone Service Provider Alliance, that's our friend Vic, who changed account to Moss Photography. We have Jay is here as well, Super 8mm 1. Ben Pacheco, I always butcher that name. I'm sorry, Ben Pacheco. James is here, a good friend James Van Boeven from the community and longtime student. Scott is here, George Kelly, Bella, Jason, Sean, a lot of folks. Wow. Thank you all for being here. It's been a crazy week, been a crazy weekend, and then here we are again, ready for another crazy week. And hopefully a quiet weekend, so we'll see what happens. But, I'm going to wait a little bit to talk about the DJI thing and the all of that. So let's get to some of the questions first. I know some people always join a little bit later, and I know people will have questions. So let's get started with Retired Fire Chief was the first one in the questions today. Good evening from Eastern Iowa. Thought I read somewhere to slow my drone down in normal mode on the DJI Mini 4 Pro RC2 controller. So if you want to slow the drone down, okay. I think you might be talking about the EXP settings to change how sensitive the controller is. So there is a function inside of the drone itself in the settings that shows you EXP, and those EXP can be changed. If you go to the course we have a free course for the DJI Mini 4 Pro called a Deep Dive. It's on our website. We show you where that option is located. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember from the top of my head where it is in the settings exactly, because it always is different. Travis says, what is the difference between cameras on wire that are used in NFL games and drones? Why can't the NFL hire drone pilots instead of using cameras on wire? Several reasons, I think. Cameras on wires are, while they're expensive, they're not noisy and they don't need batteries other than, to power the camera. But I'm sure all those are powered over Ethernet probably. But yeah, that's probably the primary reason, and they can be operated by just one person. If you had a drone, my guess would be 2 people. Also, NFL games, I don't watch NFL, but I know some of the stadiums have open rooftop, which means that they would need to have approval to fly over people, which is not easy to get with some of the bigger cameras because they need to be either on a waiver or they need to be categorized, and none of these bigger drones are categorized. So that would be my guess, is just paperwork issues. Excuse me, they use cameras on wire for a long time. They can probably reset to a specific location more quickly. They probably have all of their angle preset into these cameras. So that would be, that would be my guess. Tavin says, tips for getting through a job while in flight training I don't know that I understand the question. Tips for getting through a job while in flight training. So Tavin, I think you're maybe a flight student flying to become a commercial pilot. So you can't really get a job unless you're a commercial pilot a little bit later on in your flight career. So if that's what you're asking, that would be the answer, is you can't do that until you can't really make money as a private pilot flying airplanes. Apologize. Jason Stripling says, would like to get your thoughts on the ban. Heard the Countering CCP Drone Act was removed from the final reauthorization act. Okay, well, I guess the question is out. So let's talk about the Countering CCP Drones Act and the NDAA. So now I want to preface this. It is 4 p.m. here in Arizona. It's 6 p.m. on the East Coast. The latest and greatest, and this is not necessarily just final yet, because as of 4 p.m. on the East Coast, the language that you may have seen, that I'm going to talk about in a second, was approved to go on to the next level. And there's still time for some changes to be made within possibly the next 72 hours. So take what I'm going to say next with a grain of salt. It is more than likely what the final language of the NDA is going to be, but it could also change. Very unlikely, but it could also change. So with these caveats, what has happened is that the Countering CCP Drones Act, as it was presented a couple months ago, was not included into the NDA final language that we have seen. And but there's a bit of a caveat. There is some language that relates to DJI and Autel, and that language basically says that within the next year there should be an analysis, if you want, done on the DJI and Autel drones to see if they pose a risk. And the caveat is that somebody in the government, one of the agencies in the government, should be doing a test on these drones and publish the results. And then other agencies should be looking at these results and validate the results. And if none of this happens, if nobody touches this thing within a year, then DJI and Autel would be automatically added to the FCC blacklist, if you want, covered list. And as such, no new DJI drones would be approved after that. And that's sort of the language from the CCP Drones Act, the Counter CCP Drones Act, but not really. And so it is a bit of a victory in a sense. It's positive, I would say, that the final language was not included, but there's still some language in there that is concerning, I would say, especially if none of these agencies take on the task to do what is written in this NDAA bill. And if that's the case in 1 year, then we would still have somewhat of a ban of DJI and Autel. So that's it. That's kind of where we're at. So like I said, as of 4 p.m., this was essentially, oops, what did I just do? This was essentially approved on both sides, but there's still time for someone to submit changes within the next 72 hours from the way that I understand it. And if that's the case, then there you go. So Vic says it's section 1709 of the NDAA bill is what I just mentioned. And then 162 of the NDA. So 1709 and 162. But yep, that's kind of where we're at. So if you have additional questions, let us know. I'm trying to read the comments and see if anybody else is adding to what I just said. Who in the Senate is the champion of common sense that kept the Countering CCP Drones Act out of the NDA? I don't know. I don't know. They deserve a letter of appreciation from many of us. Yeah, that's agreed. But again, like I said, it's a positive, but there's still some looming things. So we need to continue being careful. And then there's going to be more work that needs to be done once we have final approval of all of this. Yep. Somebody said, talking football will confuse Greg more. Sports is not his strong suit. American sports is not my strong suit. I watch a lot of sports, just not none of the popular American sports. So, yeah, all right. All right. Whew. Let's go back to the questions. Thanks, Jason, for derailing Jason Stripling. No, thanks for asking that question. Appreciate that. Ben Pacheco says, thank you for taking this question. What is the best flight data logger software that you recommend? So I'm guessing for analyzing the data, maybe. There's two of them out there that we've been using. One is Aloft Air Control. Well, Aloft as a platform that can do all of that. And then the other one is Air Data. Those are the two that have been around for a long time. And yeah. Nathan Lear says, do the DJI remotes work with the Enzu drones? Will there be a Mavic 4 Enterprise soon? As far as I know, the DJI remotes do not work with the Enzu drone because they're using a different system. They're using a different software to control the drone. As far as the Mavic 4 Enterprise, there has been talk about Mavic 4. We talked about all of this morning. By the way, we had a pretty long discussion this morning in post-flight with Ben and Jason about the Countering CCP language and the NDA stuff. So if you're a member of the premium community, it's worth going to watch it. Is it posting now, Ben? Is it posted, or are we still editing? I'll get an answer in the question in a second. It's posted? Yeah, okay. So it's available in the community now. So if you want to go watch it, wait until this is done and then go watch it. So the Mavic 4 Enterprise, we've seen the approval from the FCC. Apparently, it's gone live, so that's a good thing. So we should be seeing it, my guess is early next year, sometimes in Q1. Dr. Kenneth Noisewater says, I've got an Evo Light Plus, and I just bought the Firehouse Arc 4 for night flying, and I'm wondering where's the best place to mount it for maximum visibility, top or bottom. The top is mostly battery. I would put it right on top of the battery. Remember those lights that you put on the drone, they're not for you to see the drone, they're for other aircraft in the airspace to see your drone. So it's just it's a beacon to broadcast your location. So more than likely other aircraft are going to be on top of you as they fly, so you should put it on top of the drone. Anthony from Etort Aerial says, how would you report dangerous flying to the FAA, for example? I'm glad you're here wanting to ask you. Reporting to the FAA should be done to the Flight Standard District Office closest to where the infraction happened or the dangerous flying happened. So provide them with as much information. And if you have footage, if you have videos that they posted online or whatever it is, but that should be done with the FSDO, Flight Standard District Office. And if you go on the FAA website and you search send a message or contact local FSDO or something in Google Map, in Google search, I'm sorry, you'll be able to find a page. There is a page that's easy to find in Google, and it will ask you to select the closest one. I know you're in Chicago, so the Chicago one, and then the Chicago FSDO, and then you'll be able to send a message, and then they'll get back to you for more information if they need to. And Jason just posted the link for the FSDO offices right there. Thank you, Jason. Michael says, I would like to buy an Air 3S, but I'm concerned with the shipment being held by CBP. Has the issue been resolved? We've seen mixed results on this, mixed reports. So we've seen people say, just like us, we got ours within 5 days of having it shipped. And we've seen other people say that theirs have been delayed. So it's hit and miss. I think it depends on where you live. It sounds like the Port of Miami has been the one holding things. So if you live close to that area, there's a potential chance of it being held. But eventually they get released. It just takes a while. So Kenneth Noisewater says, have you or your crew ever had an accident that required to report to the FAA or the NTSB? No, we have not, thankfully. We've only had really one major catastrophe with the drone, which was the propeller stopped spinning completely in flight and then it just crashed down, but it did not require any notification. So, Anthony, Hawaii would have its own FSDO. Pretty sure there's the Honolulu, I think, FSDO is there. Steven Drones says, I see so many people, so many drone videos not flying VLOS and flying over people. What's up with that? Is that okay to do that? It is not okay. In most cases, most people cannot fly over people and or beyond visual line of sight unless they have the proper waivers. Flying over people requires special equipment and or a waiver. But and then flying beyond visual line of sight is possible with a waiver, but most people you see out there in videos, they're just flying beyond visual line of sight and they don't care. Formerly Film Photography says, watching news and dealing with the New Jersey drone situation, Senator from Tennessee said his state owns shotguns. How do we counter ignorance of this level? Well, I mean, I don't know that you can, other than sending them a message and say, by the way, shooting at aircraft in the air is dumb and against regulation, and you should know that. But there are some people that are just not the brightest, and it sounds like whoever this senator is not the brightest. So shooting anything up in the air in itself is dumb because there is aircraft flying up there and that bullet has to come down at one point. But just saying. Constantine says, I can purchase the Air 3S in Europe and bring it here to avoid nonsense with customs. Do you know if it has FCC approval? And let's say it doesn't, can I legally fly it here? So the Air 3S model has FCC approval in the United States. So you should be able to fly it, and it should be the same drone. So yeah, you should be able to do that. Just make sure you take it out of the box, and then if you put it in your bag like it's your own. I mean, it is your own, and just and go through. But if you keep it in the actual box, they might be asking questions about you importing stuff. Sparky, super late to the party. Welcome, Mr. Super Late. Who in the Senate is the... Oh, yeah, I read that already. Okay, Boomer. And I mean that because it's his name. Fernanda Pacheco says, hey, Greg, I live in New Jersey and have seen these drones in my neighborhood for several weeks now. Do you have any thoughts on all these drones flying at night over New Jersey? I don't know. We've talked about this in the office multiple times. We talked about it this morning in post-flight as well. There's just something that doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add up that these things are flying over a populated area. They're flying at a high altitude. Supposedly, it's hard to tell what altitude they're at. And there's a lot of them. They're flying over military bases, supposedly. They're flying... And the government is incapable of finding where they're coming from, or so are we told, right? So do they actually know? Do they actually know what it is and they're not saying it? Do they not know what it is and they're incapable of following them, which I don't believe? These things have to come down, right? They go up and they have to come down somewhere, and it can't be that far, and it has to be trackable. We have plenty of equipment that flies, and that should be able to track these things and get to the bottom of it. If this thing lands, somebody has to go pick it up. And even if it doesn't, then we have the drone and we can figure out what's going on with it. So I don't know. Has anyone in New Jersey tried to follow these drones and see where they land? And I know it could be that they turn off the lights eventually before they land. But I mean, if this happened in Arizona, I can guarantee you that we would be following them either with a drone, with a car, with an airplane, whatever it is, and then trying to see where they land. I don't know. I'm just so confused about this whole situation. Why are the lights turned on if they're doing something nefarious? Typically, people that do something nefarious just don't turn on the lights. And then, yeah, where are they going? So, yeah, you're right. Vic says the drone issue is making some state, local, and federal agencies look really bad. And I have to agree with that, unless, again, they have the answer and they're not worried about it. But the public certainly is. So anyone at the government level should be worried about it if constituents are worried about it. But Minot from Engineer Drone Services says, in your opinion, what would be the best gift for drone enthusiasts for the holiday? Premium community card. Yeah, that's a good idea. Does Beehive have gift cards? If not, I take credit for that idea. We have gift cards. We have the ability to gift things on the website. So you can do that. When you check out, it asks you if you want to make it a gift. As far as premium community gift cards, we don't have that. But if you reach out to us, we can probably work on something for you. And that's a great idea for someone who's starting, especially if they want to get into business. The premium community is designed specifically for folks that are trying to expand their business and get to the next level. So that would be great. But yeah, PI courses are available as a gift. Absolutely. Horizon Adventure Drone says, are there any limits on how many drones you can have in check-in luggage for international flights? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. So the number of batteries is debatable as to how many you can have. I don't know that there is a specific... No, there is a specific number, but I think it's pretty hard to get to as far as total wattage. But... yeah, no. Thumb Drone says, any idea if the Flip will have remote ID? I saw on Amazon leaks stating a 249 gram weight. Interesting. With enclosed props. I'm hoping for another category 1. It would be cool. It would be cool to be under that. So historically, and I don't know about the Flip because that's all the info we have is the leaks. Historically, DJI does not have remote ID on drones that are 250 grams and under. So my guess is that it will not have remote ID, but it's also very easy to add, except in this case, if it's 249 grams and you put a remote ID module on top of it, then all of a sudden it's over 249 grams, which means it's no longer category 1. So let's wait and see what the weight is going to be on this thing. And yeah. Taurus says, I have a child with special needs and he really wants to get into flying. He would not be capable of passing the trust test. As long as I have the certificate, would that cover him for flying as well? Yeah, if you're Taurus, I'm guessing you will be there when he flies as well and you'll fly along with him. So yes, as long as you're certificated, you would be the pilot in command in this case and then flying with him, which is awesome. So yes, absolutely. Go ahead and do that. Jim North says, does the language in the 2025 NDA specify which agency or agencies would be responsible for the security assessment of DJI and Autel? No. And I think, Jim, that is also a point of contention where it's very vague, right? I believe there is close to 20 agencies that would be capable or that would fall under the criteria for being a reviewing agency. And we know that some agencies are a bit more biased than others. And so, yeah, personally, I think an agency like the NSA should be the ones that do it because that's kind of like the highest up there. I don't know. I don't even know how to say it, but it would make the most sense. But we'll see. Scott says, what is a good mount set for Firehouse for plain old Mavic 3 on the front? I know you need one on top. To mount them on the arm, if you have a 3D printer, I would go and look at Thingiverse or something like that to see if there is a mount. Take a look at our friend Original Dobo Kendono. See if he has anything in his store that would do that. I don't remember if he does or not, but he has a lot of printed parts that he does. So see if that's available in his store. And then also maybe I should add, see if Firehouse has a mount, because they actually might. I know they've sent us a couple mounts over time and they might have them available. Worst case scenario, you can put them on there using double-sided tape and then a rubber band. If you're good with rubber band, you can probably tighten it onto the arm. Although I would be careful on the arm because of the propeller and everything. And if you put it on the side of the drone itself, double-sided tape might be plenty enough. The 3M stuff is pretty strong. And now that I reread the question, I'm sorry, Scott, thinking about this. You're probably trying to put it in the front to make it like a flashlight to light up things in front of you, I'm guessing. If that's the case, you would probably need to build your own mount somehow with a 3D printer to have it facing forward rather than facing up. Lou from Drone Angle says, is anyone else getting some shuddering on the RC2 when flying the Mini 4 Pro or the Air 2S? Video seems fine. I wonder what is causing it. Lou, typically, so shuddering, I'm guessing you have like some vibration in your footage or maybe like a jello effect. If that's the case, that's because of the shutter speed that you use. It means that you need to use ND filters to slow down the shutter speed during recording of your footage. That would be my guess. Otherwise, I don't know what shuddering means. Anthony says, oh, what's happening over there? Just bull in a china shop. Anthony says, one last question. Is there some waiver for flying over people now that lasts like 5 years for a drone like the Mini 4 Pro? Can you talk about this? Really want to know. Yes, there are waivers. I don't think they're available for 5 years, but they're available for several years typically. I don't remember what ours is good for. But the waiver to fly over people is fairly easy to get with the Mini 4 Pro. You need to have prop guards on it, and then you need to submit to the FAA your case, your safety case, and then you need to have a visual observer, a light, prop guards. I think that's it, and then you should be good to go. But yeah, you need to submit the waiver, and it is good for several years. Rocks, and we have a video on that, Anthony, so check on the YouTube channel. If you can't find it, just message me and then I'll see if I can find it for you. But it's on the YouTube channel. It's about flying over people and the new ways of flying over people. Does flying in line of sight mean that you can easily see the drone, or can it be line of sight of the controller but far enough away, making it too small to see with the eye? So visual line of sight is complex. It's more than just seeing a dot on the horizon. So the answer is no, a dot on the horizon is not good enough. You need to be able to see attitude, altitude, and direction of flight of the aircraft, but you also need to be able to have command of the airspace nearby, meaning that you need to be able to see what is going on in the airspace. So a tiny dot on the horizon is not visual line of sight, at least under Part 107. Anthony, go check the, there you go. Jason just posted it. What are some good jobs for a 16-year-old who just got their Part 107? To get started, probably some kind of aggregator like, they changed their name. Zeidview, it's called now. Zeidview. And ZEIT View. And they offer, there's a bunch of them out there, but to get started, to get your feet wet, get some experience, it doesn't pay much, but you know, it helps to get started. Past that, I would say help him, maybe him or her start maybe a small business on the side. It's a good opportunity to teach them about business and teach them about responsibilities and, how to do all that as a young professional. It'd be pretty cool. I wish I had done that as a kid. Started my first business a little bit later, but at 16, that would have been cool. Should I get drones? Is drone ban DJI or something? I would not make a decision right now based on proposed bans. I would get all the drones that please you and fly whatever fits your needs, DJI or others. So yes, absolutely. I would not, use the ban as a reason not to get, almost quite the opposite, because that drone is unlikely to get banned if you buy it today. So you'll have at least a drone. How many times have you been stopped by the police or approached by angry people for flying a drone? I don't know why. I must be sending good vibes, but I have not really had any bad interactions with people who are flying the drone. Granted, I always have cameras around me when I fly, usually for whatever. I usually have a crew with me when I fly these days, but even when I flew by myself early on in the days, I had one guy one day that I was recording the maneuvers course, and you can probably still see that footage in the course, but he was right behind me with his dog just watching me, but he was right behind me, and it just made me a little uncomfortable. So I stopped, went to talk to him. He was just curious. Never really had any bad issues. Now I know it's not the average, interaction with folks, but no, I've been fairly lucky. Our friend Ken that I mentioned earlier from Original Dobo had some issues in one location specifically. We had one of our former employees that also had an issue with someone that was really, really vocal about them not flying a drone. But no, we've been pretty lucky. So, but again, like I said, we also have usually a group of folks. It looks like we're filming. People are just curious more than anything else, and always pretty good interaction. So, Kevin Corns says, watch a news anchor that showed a drone flying over her house. Light and silhouette were of a commercial airliner flying below 10,000 feet since the landing light were on. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the same footage that we showed in news updates. And I know, by the way, in news update, we were a little sarcastic about the footage that was shown. And I know there are more than likely drones that are flying over there, and that it's not all airliners, but the specific one was definitely an airliner. And not good. Sky Curtain says, if one of my friends wants to hand catch my drone when I land, does that count as OOP or nobody really cares? Technically, it would count as a crew member, so you are allowed to fly over them. And before you ask that next question, know your subject on the ground. The bride and the groom during a wedding are not crew members. They need to have a specific job to do during the thing. So if you're doing videos of them while they're in there, you're going to have a hard time telling the FAA that they were a crew member if you end up hitting them. But in this case, if your friend is part of the operation and their job is to hand catch the drone, then they would be part of the operation. Stephen Belt says, is getting permission to fly in the outermost ring of the Washington, D.C. the same as a lens request, or is that the FAA drone zone request? I'm 99% sure, Stephen, that a drone, a lens request is what you need for the outer ring. Vic may have a bit more information on this. I have to admit, I have not flown in that area personally. I know it is possible to do that. And there's a webpage. If you actually flying drones in the FRZ, the freeze, flight restriction zone, there will be information there and it will tell you what to do. But I'm 99% sure that that's what it takes. Retired Fire Chief says, have the Mini 4 Pro Plus with prop guards that weigh 397 grams with my light. Can I put in a waiver to fly over people? Yes, you can, as long as you have a Part 107 certificate and the drone is under 400 grams. So yes, you're right at that edge, right at that limit. Vic says, I've only flown in the inner ring. Yeah, whatever, flex. Yep. So yeah, but if you find that page, whoever was asking, I think it was Steven. If you find, you'll find that page easily in Google. That's usually where I go to find the information. First Medic says, wouldn't mounting on the arm mess up the weight and balance of the aircraft? Yes and no. It's not enough weight typically to really mess up with the drone. The drone can carry some weight, so it would be fine. It is better to put it on top, nearby the battery if possible. But yeah. CF says, can you just hum a few bars on what the recent news is on the DJI ban? I heard that something came out on Saturday. So I just talked about this. Maybe you came in a little bit late. So I recommend you rewind because I did a pretty thorough explanation of what happened earlier, maybe like 20 minutes ago or so in the live. So, or maybe wait until the end and go watch it. But yes, there hasn't been a whole lot of changes, quite frankly, since whatever came out on Sunday was the time. If you've seen some of Vic's posts on this on Sunday, that's kind of the latest information that we have, except that something that language seemingly passed at 4 p.m. today and is now open for potential changes in the next 72 hours. In Colorado, there are several cities that prohibit operate a drone on their public parks. There are a few parks that is allowed to operate. So besides those places, where can we operate a drone from? Anywhere else, quite frankly, Diego. So, you know, the mountains, you can go and operate in nature outside of all that. I know some cities in Colorado have a bit of an overreach on some of these things. Not sure why they think that they can do that. And that's not parks. They are allowed to restrict operation to and from parks. I have to be clear, but some of them have a bit of an overreach. Elias says, "What about FPV drone? It's hard to see them. Are they ever legal to fly?" Yes, FPV drones are legal to fly if you have a visual observer with you, which would be somebody located to help you with maintaining visual line of sight by looking at the drone. So yes, they are harder to find. I think it's most FPV flights are very difficult to keep legal because of how the FAA rules are written. And yet, it still works to be safe. Horizon Adventure Drones says, any idea on how I can record high quality sound and audio when getting close to objects with my drone? That is difficult. That is a tough one. So tell me more about the type of recording that you want to do. I'm guessing maybe people that are talking. If that's the case, then you would have to do it from further away using maybe a 3x lens so you can give them a bit more space. Or you can do it so that the main angle is not shooting them directly in the front, and you can kind of cheat in post by having a dubbing maybe on top of it. But it is difficult to do. Dubbing is probably one way that you can do it as well. So you can record the same footage twice, one time to get the audio, and then a second time if they are able to say exactly the same thing at roughly the same pace, but when the drone is filming them. And then the lips will somewhat match. If you're far enough with the drone, which I'm expecting you would be, it probably won't matter. Nobody will realize that it's off sync. Or just use the drone for B-roll footage instead of for your A-roll. As your primary roll, you would use a different camera and then just use the drone to do fill-in B-roll footage. That's the way I would do it. It's difficult to make it look good, from my experience, to make somebody look good filming them with the drone as they're talking. It's easier to use a ground camera to do that and then use the drone as B-roll. Phew. Next question. I can't get a smooth waypoint flight if the LiDAR sensor is facing the sun. Have you experienced any issues with the new sensor yet? Yes, typically, and that's not just with the LiDAR, although the LiDAR should not be as affected, but the older sensors, the older sensors were very affected by this, by having sun straight in their face and not working correctly. Not a whole lot of ways around it, unfortunately. I don't know why LiDAR would do that, because LiDAR doesn't require... Yeah, I don't know why the LiDAR would do that, though, the way I understand the technology. Do you have any idea why the M3T, Mavic 3 Thermal, is able to map IR faster than the Mavic, the Matrice 30T? The M3 Enterprise manual shows the specs for the Mavic 3T as a 2-second interval, which is the same as the Mavic 30, the Matrice 30. Oh, gee. Why is the Mavic able to map faster than the... I don't know, actually. Different sensor, capturing more data maybe on the 30, but I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Probably different sensors. Yeah, Vic makes a good point. Sorry, I'm going back to the microphone, the recording issue from before. So you would need to use a boom mic in order to do this. So I don't have, well, we have one up here, but we're not using it right now. I'm using this mic, obviously, which is really close to me, and if I move over here, you're not going to hear me as much, and if I move over here, you're not going to hear me, but if I move right here, you're going to hear me really well. Well, a boom mic is very directional. You place it and it gets all of the all of the sound right in front of it. It's, imagine like a telephoto lens that gets right on the person. So I would use a boom mic. It would remove a lot of the sound around it. You can probably even put like some kind of a parabola or something around it to kind of block the sound coming from the edges if the drone is behind you, and that would probably help. If you have a mini, I like what Vic said with the mini, it would probably help quite a bit as well. Sorry, I'm coming back to this, but yeah, thank you, Vic. That was a great idea. Lav mics could work, but lav mics have a bit of a wider range that would pick up a lot more information than a boom mic would, but yeah. Bala says, is police, federal government agencies having drones? If yes, are they? Do they have different rules and regulation? Kind of, but not really. So police and other federal government, well, the federal government is one thing, but police departments, well, no, actually, I shouldn't say that. Okay, let me rewind. Either of these have the ability to either operate under Part 107 or under Part 91 by having what's called a certificate, a COA, and certificate of authorization. But in most cases, their rules are fairly close to the rules that you're going to have to follow as a Part 107. They have the ability to get some waivers more easily because of the type of operation that they do, but in general, they have very similar restrictions. Military drones are different. Okay, you said government agencies, but military drones are going to be a little bit different. Is it legal to fly in the DJI Flight Cart 30 registered as a manned aircraft flying with a helicopter license? Let me think about that for a second. Well, I mean, the Flight Cart 30 doesn't have enough payload to carry a human. So no, unless you're flying a kid in it, which please don't. The DJI Flight Cart, actually the Flight Cart 30, I don't remember how big the payload is on the Flight Cart 30. Let's assume that you have a drone that can carry people on it. And actually, the Flight Cart 30 might be able to do that. It would have to be registered as an experimental aircraft. And as long as the person on board has the flight controls, then it becomes an experimental light sport aircraft. It would be a light sport aircraft. It would not be a helicopter because it's not a rotorcraft. 85 pounds? Yeah, so that's not enough. But still, let's say that you had one that could do that. Or if you weighed 85 pounds, which is a possibility. But that would be, you would need to have you need to have a pilot certificate. Yeah, I think, is it considered a rotorcraft though? It's a good question. I would have to go back to see the definition of a rotorcraft, because that's what you have on your helicopter certificate is a rotorcraft certificate technically. But it could be registered as a manned aircraft. Yes, it would have to be experimental because it doesn't have a type certificate with the FAA, and so as such, it would have to be an experimental aircraft. I just don't know the certificate which one would have to apply in order to do that. It's also not a fixed wing aircraft, so an airplane pilot certificate wouldn't do it. So, yeah, what? Powered lift. Oh yeah, it's a powered lift. Yeah, it's a powered lift. So you need to have a powered lift certificate to do that. 60. Somebody said 87-pound maximum payload online. Yeah, there's a lot of different things, but anyway, it wouldn't be enough anyway. But it's a cool thing to think about. Whew. Next. Do people carry portable ADS-B receivers when they are flying to keep an eye on a nearby airspace? Not a bad idea at all. DJI has that integrated into most of their drones these days, but yeah, not a bad idea at all to carry one of those for sure. Thoughts on the Skydio X2 drone, good or bad? I mean, it's never easy to say good or bad just for a drone, but it's not Skydio's finest, and it has issues for sure. It depends on what you're trying to use it for, quite frankly. We have a free deep dive on the Skydio X2 on our website, so take a look at that. I have a 20-gram FPV Whoop. Can I fly that without observer and in a park, or am I risking it? I don't have anybody to keep an eye on the drone. I mean, technically, you need to have a visual observer. That's all I'm going to say. Technically, you have to have a visual observer regardless of the weight. And this is where I think some of these rules just don't make any sense, because a 20-gram FPV Whoop is going to do what kind of damage to anything? And I'm a manned aircraft pilot, and I want people to fly safely. But man, an FPV Whoop in a park that's going to fly 20 feet above the ground? Psh. Josh says, how long did it take you to get your manned aircraft pilot's license? It took me 2 years to get all of my certificate from private instrument, commercial, multi-engine, fly instructor, and fly instructor instrument in 2 years, while I was also doing my 2-year degree. So some people can do it quicker if you're doing this full time. I thought that was a good amount of time for me between studying and doing everything else. Most people at universities do it in 4 years. So I did mine a little bit quicker because I had to. I did my last 2 years of my degree in the US. And that's what I had to do. Are the lights on the Air 3S leg qualify enough for night flying, or do you need an additional strobe? No, the lights do not qualify on the drone. So you would need an additional strobe light that is visible from 3 statute miles. And we recommend the ARC 5, and that's the best one that we've tested to date. And yeah, put that on there. Thoughts on the rumored Mavic 4 specs? The last ones that I saw were decent, but I don't think I've seen a whole lot of camera specs on that thing yet, unless some of them have come out that I haven't seen yet, which is entirely possible. So I don't know. I don't know that I have much opinion on the Mavic 4 just yet until I see more. But yeah. Whew. Vic says, flew the X2 for the National Park Service, not a video drone. Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. Some of the issues with the Skydio drones is image, the downlink from the drone to the controller is not the greatest quality. Very unreliable as well. Can be good one day and can be terrible the next, or within a minute or not. So yeah. Yep. What is the growing trend in drone services to start earning money? I mean, you can make money in this industry anywhere and everywhere. We have friends that are very successful doing real estate photography and videography. We have friends that are very successful doing mapping. We have, I mean, you make your own success, right? Vic here is in the chat. He's been a photographer for many, many years, and he uses drones as an additional service to his ground photography and is very successful. So are a lot of other people. So yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily a trend. I mean, if you want a trend, I'll tell you, mapping has grown pretty tremendously in the last couple of years. Agriculture, using drones for agriculture, but I think these require additional skills that you need to learn. So there's a learning curve, especially in the agriculture world. I don't think it's something that you just step in. You probably should have some kind of background to understand how farmers do their job, to understand how crops are grown, to understand what kind of data you need to collect. And, you know, spraying is one thing, the act of spraying, but you have to figure out where you're spraying, how much you're spraying. There's quite a bit that goes into this. And of course, the agriculture drones with the spraying requires an initial investment for the equipment, for the paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork that's required. So the trend is this, the in general, and this is true of not just the drone industry, but a market in which you need to invest more money typically means higher payback and higher paying jobs when you start doing the job. And so and jobs that have a very low barrier to entry typically pay a little bit less, up until the point where, you know, you have more equipment, you have more knowledge, and then you can start to charge more. But yeah, that's what I would say. I don't know if that answers the question. What other questions do we have here? Yeah, Metzgy says, just confirm my thoughts on the Skydio drones. Yep, that's... Does it take a special waiver to fly the Mavic 3 Pro? It does not. So the Mavic 3 Pro, like most drones out of the box, are legal to fly in the airspace as long as you stay below 400 feet above the ground or below whatever altitude you're allowed to fly at if you're close to an airport. As long as you stay within visual line of sight, basically as long as you follow the basic rules, it doesn't require any special waivers. Waivers are typically designed to bypass some regulation that's out there. So flying over people, for example, is not super easy, so there are waivers available. Flying above 400 feet is not easy. There are waivers available, although not a whole lot of them are being offered, accepted, issued. So yeah, but no, in general, you don't need a waiver. Any idea if a homeowner association, my favorite people, has the right to restrict flights on private property, or would that fall apart if challenged in court? None that I would ever live on, but if I'm visiting. So the HOA typically on like the roads in a neighborhood, right? So they are allowed to prevent you from flying, from taking off and landing from the land that they control, that they own. They should not be able to tell you that they can control flight inside of private property. So let's say you go to a friend's house that lives in an HOA and you take off from their property. The HOA has no say in that, but they'll try. They might try. I don't have a very high opinion of HOA folks. I hope none of you are watching, but yeah, I try to avoid HOAs. Eagle Lens Productions, is the day coming when automated drone system will eliminate inspectors of power lines, cell towers? So I'm going to give you a caveat on that. Not my area of expertise, but I have a lot of knowledge on automation of aircraft because that's what I did my master's degree in for human factors. There will be a day, I have no doubt, where the capture of images of power lines and cell towers will be automated. I don't have really a doubt there because it's a fairly repeatable, templatized process. As far as the analysis of the data, I think that's a different thing. So I still think that there will be a human for a while that's going to look at this, although it might be aided by AI, going forward. But yeah, I think there will still be a human in the loop, at least for a while, to review some of these things. But I'm sure, like I said, AI and automation of capturing footage will be the first step to filter through and find areas that need to be paid attention to, and then put a human in the loop to verify and then go there. We'll see. Yep, HOAs cannot override state and federal laws, and they're not above the law, but they certainly will try. So yes, I agree with that. We have another question here. For starter, which area of expertise would you offer solar and cell tower inspections? Any advice? If you have a background in that, absolutely. I think, cell tower inspection, although cell tower inspections are typically done in-house by the owners of the cell towers. So I don't know that there's a big market there. Solar panel inspections, yeah, I would probably do that unless they're doing it themselves, but it does save a lot of time for sure. Greg Frost says, do you think they will enforce the drone laws for recreational? And if so, who would enforce it? They, being the FAA, really are the ones that would enforce drone laws. I think the FAA has somewhat little interest with recreational flyers unless they do something dumb, which we've seen. We've seen twice so far with the FAA. Well, maybe more than that, but with two big cases where the FAA got involved with people that were flying recreationally when they should have been flying under Part 107s, and they were doing dumb stuff. So the FAA said, hold my beer and watch this. And then it didn't play well for the people on the other end. Adam says, how's your day going? My day is going great. Thank you, Adam. How about yours? It's almost the end of the day, and I'm talking to all my friends in the community here, answering their questions. So it's a good day. Can you fly drones over 250 grams under recreation, or is a Part 107 required? You can absolutely fly drones over 250 grams. You just need to make sure that they are registered and that they have a remote ID signal of sorts, whether it's coming from the drone itself, which is called standard remote ID, or using a remote ID module. And then you need to register the drone on the FAA drone zone. There's only one place to do that. It's on the FAA drone zone. It ends with a .gov. It's $5 for 3 years. And if it's any more than that, you're in the wrong place. I would say, Mountain Man, if you are new to this, which it sounds like you are, we have a free resource that's called Recreational Flying Made Easy. I think Jason will put a link in the description. But yes, that would be where I would start. It's a free resource, and make sure you also take the Trust exam if you haven't done that. Trust.pilotinstitute.com will help you do that. It's free as well. So a ton of free resources we have on the website to help you. The link that Jason just put up is the drone zone, and then he'll put a link to the other one. Richard Brown says, I just watched a football game where the drone was over a spontaneous crowd. Did they have any special permit? I don't know. Hard to tell, obviously, because I wasn't there, but they could have had a permit to do that. So it's possible. Can you fly 2 drones under 1 waiver? 2 drones under 1 waiver. So I'm guessing the question means, can you use the same waiver to fly several drones? Yeah, and the answer is yes. So we have 1 waiver that applies to all of our drones. As far as flying 2 drones at the same time under the same waiver, you would need 2 pilots. I don't know if that's the question, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it as well. We're almost at the end of the show here. 4 more questions. flying over a hiking trail, 50 to 100 foot AGL, how far left or right is not flying over people and flying 10 feet to the left. There's not really any offsets as far as the FAA says for flying over people. Over is over. Anytime the drone is over any body part, you're flying over someone. With that being said, drones have momentum. And if you were to lose a motor, lose a propeller, whatever happens, and the drone is moving forward, it's going to keep on moving forward until it falls. So I would give myself a buffer to make sure that if I'm moving and I'm flying and something happens, it doesn't land on someone. Horizon says, if I can pick one mirrorless camera and lens to add to the drone collection, what would it be? It would probably be a Sony Alpha of sorts, whichever one you can afford. I'm a Panasonic guy. I was a Canon guy for ages and ages when I did photography. Moved over to Fuji for a while. Loved the Fuji X-T1, X-T2, and X-T3, and ended up buying Panasonic and never looked away. We use Blackmagic cameras in here, but I know that the Sony cameras are really good as well. So, you know, there's not a whole lot of bad cameras out there. Let's put it this way. But for photography, for mirrorless and lenses, Sony is doing a pretty darn good job. Vic says Nikon, but Vic is a photographer, not a videographer. Well, I'm sorry, that's diminishing. He's also a videographer, but he does a lot of photos with his camera. I was a Canon guy, Vic, that's why I said that. You're a Nikon guy. Del Sprit, some strobe lights have different pulsating speed in the settings. Does it matter if the light are pulsing, or is it supposed to be constantly 1 hertz on the light? Wait, what did I just say? Yeah, but oh wow. I'm having a brain fart. I don't think there is a pulsating speed required for those lights. There's not. There's not. I'm sorry. Diego says, and this is the last question, do you need a waiver if you want to fly a DJI Mini 4 Pro with the prop guards and the intelligent fly battery over 250 and you want to fly over vehicles? Yes, you would absolutely need a waiver for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, we went over by 2 minutes, which is fine, but there's no required strobe frequency. Yes. I don't know why I had a brain fart. I don't know where. Oh, the 1 hertz is the remote ID. I don't know why my brain sometimes does that, but that's what happens. Okay, that's it. That's all we have. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back on Friday morning for news update. We will be back on Friday afternoon for our community happy hour. And if you are part of the premium community, make sure you go watch post flight. We have a ton of information this week. It went live and you should be able to see it. So keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye on what Vic says in the community regarding the drone ban. He's really close to this. He's going to have the latest information for us as soon as it pops out. And then, yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.